Alison Edgar MBE is affectionately known as the Entrepreneurs Godmother and Managing Director of Sales Coaching Solutions. He's an author, entrepreneur, speaker and thought leader. From growing up in a high-rise flat in Clydebank and struggling with undiagnosed dyslexia, to working internationally in hospitality management and ultimately owning and scaling a successful sales training business. Alison has a fantastic story to tell, and in 2020, Alison was awarded an MBE for services to entrepreneurship and business, and she has been twice named one of the UK's top 10 business advisors by Entrepreneurs Nation. Hello, Alison, and welcome to Talk Business with.
Oh, David, thank you so much. Literally, every time I hear somebody read the bio out, you know, on your day-to-day, you just get up and you carry on, you get up in the morning, you do your stuff, and you don't always reflect. So actually, it gives me goosebumps when you reflect on the stuff that I've done. So thank you so much for having me.
Alison, if I had a bio as good as yours, I think I would actually pay for somebody to stand behind me all day and just read it out to me all day long.
There's an idea. There we go. If things get tough, David, you know there's a job there waiting for you.
Yeah. So let's go right back to the beginning. Tell us about your upbringing and how that has had an impact on the entrepreneur that you've become today.
So it's really interesting because I still don't know if I would ever describe myself as an entrepreneur. So it's lovely that you describe me as that, but I don't know if I take so many risks. I don't know if I'm a big risk taker, but I'm sure that'll come out in the interview. But yeah, Clydebank, for those of you who don't know, is on the suburbs of Glasgow, really. It's one of the urban sprawls of Glasgow, and it's really well known for things like Singer sewing machines, the QE2, and of course the 80s favourites, Wet, Wet, Wet. So I grew up in a high-rise flat, 14-storey flat on the third floor. And my mum was a cleaner in the schools and my dad worked on the shipyard. So we were never brought up with a load of money, but we were always brought up with a load of love and a load of self-belief. So I believe that the way that my mum and dad brought me up to just believe that I could do whatever I wanted if I put my mind to it. I think that's what shaped me. So rather than the monetary value, and the reason I talk about entrepreneurship is we were brought up, the only people that ever had their own business were the posh people or the trades guys, and we were neither of those. So I never ever contemplated that having a business would be anything that I would ever actually do, let alone advise people on business, because I've never come from a business background to start with. Yeah.
You have two incredibly impressive titles, an MBE and the name of the Entrepreneur's Godmother. So amazing. Tell us about how you got both of these.
So I'll start Entrepreneur's Godmother. Funding, David. So when I started Sales Coaching Solutions, if I was working with a small business, the government would part fund. So it would mean that my business was sustainable, but it was also sustainable for the small business that wanted to work with me. And in 2015, the government pulled the funding. And I thought, how am I going to, how can the startups and the micro businesses who don't have any money, how can they afford to pay me? And also, how can I afford to pay my team? Because I sort of took on a team fairly early, and I think that was because of the dyslexia. Here's me saying that I don't take risks, and before I'm making enough money to pay myself hardly, I've got a team of people that are working for me. So maybe I do take risks. And I've got one of my clients who, we went on a global mission to New York with Enterprise Nation, and there was a young Irish boy there, and he makes gin, Butler's gin. And him and I got on like a house on fire, right? Literally, he's so naughty, David, as well. I'm surprised they didn't kick us out of America because he's so naughty. But I phoned him, and again, he's very creative, really creative, and I trust his judgment. And I said, look, Alison Edgar, that's a wee bit dull for a personal brand. It doesn't really stand out. What can I have that will stand out? And he went, oh, Alison, I don't even have to think about that. You are the Entrepreneur's Godmother. And I Googled Godmother, and it means a person of influence in somebody's organization or somebody's life. And I think that just sums up what I am. I'm not a mentor. I'm not a coach. I'm somebody that's just of influence in somebody's life. So that's how the Godmother came around. And then, well, the MBE, I still have to breathe really, hyperventilate when I say it. And I've just changed my passport, David. I think, you know, in the middle of lockdown, I'm the only person that's changed their passport because nobody can travel anywhere. But I wanted to get my passport with the MBE on it. And I mean, it's really interesting. I don't really know what was in the application. I found out later that it was one of the girls that used to work for me. So when she was working for me, the application I think went in 3 or 4 years ago. So it just takes quite a long time to process. And I was sitting in the garden and we were writing the new book, Smash It. And I'm in the garden and the girl who worked for me and did the application had gone off traveling in Portugal and she'd come back to help me with the new book. And the email came in and I thought it was a joke, you know, I'm like, what's that? So I think you get an MBE for services too. I think this is really important. So mine is for services to entrepreneurship and business. And I think that literally just encapsulates what the Godmother does. You know, I don't have a 7 turnover business. I support young entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial people who do. So you don't get an MBE for being the richest person in the room. You get it for being supportive to the cause. And, you know, you can get it for services to allotment, you know, marrow growing in allotments or canoeing or sport, or there's lots of different ways you can get it. I'm just honoured that it's for something I'm so passionate about. I love business and I love entrepreneurship. Literally, I could talk about it all day, every day. So yeah, that's how it came about. So I've now got this little honour name after me, the MBE.
Amazing. So good. And of course, your first book was a huge success. Briefly share some of those secrets of successful sales with us. So
David, I'm dyslexic. I never really wanted to write a book. So a bit like, you know, when it came to the Entrepreneur's Godmother, how can I really help people who don't have much money? How can I, again, it's a bit like entrepreneurship. You don't give somebody the carrot, you give them the seeds to grow the carrot to make the money. How could I do that? And that's why I wrote Secrets of Successful Sales. But when I set up my sales training company, I'd never been a sales trainer. I was just good at sales. Yeah. So I had to come up with a methodology that I could teach, and I had to really look at what the top performers did. So as what did I do as a top performer in sales, and what did the other top performers do? And this is where I broke it into the 4 key pillars of sales. So pillar 1 is around behaviors. People buy people and they buy people like them.
Yeah.
And then the second one is sales process. So I believe that sales is like manufacturing, you know, things go through a process. And if you follow the process, voila, you have the product at the end. But again, like manufacturing, not everything goes through quality control. So that's the same as sales. You're never going to sell to everyone. But if you follow the process, you will sell to more.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is strategy. Being really strategic about where you spend your time, how you approach who your potential clients are. And then the fourth one, and I think this is the one I see most often, especially in the small business arena, is confidence. And the reason that people don't have confidence is they don't know behaviours, they don't have a process, and they don't have a strategy. So they're fumbling around in the dark. So when you've got the other 3 components, confidence comes. So yeah, that's what was in the book. And you're right, it went mad, David. It just went, it sold out on Amazon, like the paperback, not the Kindle, the paperbacks. And people had to wait 2 weeks to get the copies of the book. And like the reviews, it's had so many amazing 5-star reviews. Even this morning, right? So today we are recording on Monday, the 15th of March. And this morning about 9 a.m, I get a message from a lady in New Zealand to say she can't wait for the new book because she really loves Secrets of Successful Sales. I think, well, she's in New Zealand. How did you find out about the book? She goes, oh, it gets recommended to all the realtors here in our company because people really adore the book.
So good.
Again, I have to pinch myself. But it's like, I cannot believe it. That,
yeah. And how did you become such a good salesperson? Was you one of those kids at school, like selling sweets in the playground?
No, because I think that's that entrepreneurship. That was never me. What I did do, again, because my mum and dad didn't have a lot of money, I like to try and make my own money early, if that makes sense. And I never really, so I got my first job in a shoe shop when I was 15. I worked in a big department store in Glasgow when I was 16. But at this time, one of the boys, like, I had a brilliant friendship group at school, right? And it was a mixed boys and girls, but there was a big, you know, a big group of people. In fact, now we probably get into trouble for hanging around on street corners and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Well, people would think we were a gang, but we were not. We were, again, you know, just a really good, close group of friends. And David Cramner's mum was the area manager for Avon. And May Cramner was one of the most glamorous women that I'd ever met in my life. And we got onto the subject of Avon. So my mum had to sign up for Avon for me. And we lived in the high-rise flat, and it was, Mum, I wasn't, that sounds really bad, like, I wasn't hanging out on the street corners, I wasn't allowed out when it was dark, but my mum, like, going up and down in the high flat and the stairwells and stuff like that, it wasn't safe, you know, although they had security to get in and out, like, there would be people hanging around in the stairwells. So I would go and drop the brochure off, and then I'd have to go back and pick it up, but my mum would always come with me and wait in the stairwells in case there was anybody in the stairwells. So that was always a nice wee bit of extra cash. But I think hard work, you know, it's all about hard work, and touch wood, you know, my mum and dad worked hard, I worked hard, my kids worked hard. I just believe that hard work and a wee bit of streetwiseness was what made me quite good at sales and customer service, because like my thing is, when it's delivered correctly, sales and customer service is exactly the same thing. And when I left school, I went into hospitality. So I worked in Cape Town, I worked in Sydney, I worked in the Channel Islands in hospitality. And I think it's that core foundation of, I really genuinely love people. I love people. I could talk to people all day. Yeah. Like, and you know that sales is not the gift of the gab, because too much talking and not enough listening is not great for sales. Yeah. But actually not having that fear of people really helps you to start to build relationships, which comes back into the behaviour side of the book.
Yeah. Your new book is the follow-up to The Secrets of Successful Sales, and it's set to be just as successful. And it's called Smash It, The Art of Getting What You Want. Tell us about why we should be rushing out to get a copy.
Well, I think the timing is genius. I don't know if the timing was actually much to do with me, because I wrote during lockdown. And I mean, the reason I've written this book, and I think this is really important, because you know, we're talking about sales, but I'll tell you a wee secret, David. Lots of people don't like sales. In fact, they say they hate sales. Like, so sales is such an emotive word. I mean, for some people, it just strikes the fear into them. So what happened was, with Secrets of Successful Sales, people were reading it and using it for their real life. So things like I've got a theory to time management called Alison Edgar's Big Balls. I've got like lots of Alison Edgarisms. Yeah. And people were saying, "Oh, Alison, yeah, I've got more time now, so I arranged my children's birthday party and it was outstanding." Or, "Alison, I bought a house and I managed to save loads of money on it." Or, "Alison, you know what, I'm getting on really well now with my daughter. We really understand each other." Or just like various different things. And that's why I had to write the second book, because what I teach works for everyone, but as soon as you mention sales, they don't touch it. So that's why Smash It, The Art of Getting What You Want, is really important, because especially coming through the pandemic, people are scunnered. That's a good old Scottish word, but they're fed up, and you know, they've not been getting what they want. And you know, obviously I can't stop the pandemic. I'm good, but I'm not that good. But I can encourage people to now rebuild and refocus and really just smash it, go for what they want, work on their goals and smash it. So I feel the timing is pretty well genius, but I just hope it, I know it will be even more successful than the first book. Yeah. I know it will. I know for a fact. So I'm excited.
You've been quoted in saying before that 82% of people fail to hit their goals. Why is that?
Do you know, it's actually 92, David. And this is according to Inc. magazine. And, you know, this is one of the things that's quite interesting when I was writing this book, is I had to do a lot of research, because my core content, the stuff I really know about, is in the first book. But actually I had to learn some a lot of new things. That's been really, I mean, I feel I've discovered the meaning of life. Honestly, I would wake up when I was writing this book and it was like eureka. And I go, oh, Oh, I now know why that happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's two things. I think loads of people don't set enough goals. You know, they don't have clarity, or they set quite weak goals that they can't achieve. So happiness, freedom, money, you're never going to get that because it's not specific enough. So I think it's really working with people. And some of the stuff in the book is, you know, the oldies are sometimes the goodies. So things like SMART. I mean, I love SMART. Everything I do is really specific. It's measurable, it's achievable, believable, and it's time focused. And that's how I live my life. So, but so many people don't. I think fear holds a lot of people back. And I also think that they don't have a process. You know, coming back to, I've created a thing called the Smash It process. And that's what I use, and that's what I teach other people. So again, a little bit like the sales process, that if you follow the process, you will achieve your goals. And if you won't, and if you don't, you won't. You know, it's the same as selling. And that's where most people don't know the process, I believe.
Yeah. Why should people set goals, and what does a good goal look like?
So again, I think a goal linked to a strong purpose is what gets you up in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, you don't play football to not want to score a goal, do you? You want to win. And I think it's like winning at life. And, you know, your goal, you know, some people like, you know, look at David Beckham. He wants to win the World Cup. For some people, it's just to like score a goal in the kick around at the Sunday League, or for some people, it's putting the 2 jumpers down and scoring a goal there. So it's your own, it's relevant and to you, isn't it? And what your goal isn't the same as somebody else's, but without that aiming between the 2 jumpers or the 2 goalposts at Wembley, you're not going to hit that. So I do think it is really important, and I'm never comparing your goals to other people's goals, because you know, Dave Smith's goals aren't the same as David Beckham's goals. But I think it's people get sucked into a lot of things that are not relevant for them, because that they feel they should have those goals. They should have the detached house. You know, we were talking earlier about the hot tub. They feel that they should have the hot tub, but then when they get the hot tub, they don't know why they wanted the hot tub just to post it on their Instagram. You know, that's not a strong enough reason to continue. And I think that's another reason, coming back to that 92%, people do set goals, but then they fall off the path because it's not easy. You know, and if you've set too easy a goal, like getting it, like if David Beckham set the goal between getting 2 jumpers on Dalbury Park, then that would be too easy, and then they would give up anyway. So it's the right level of goal that you set yourself that, you know, pushes you far enough, but doesn't push you too far, that makes you not want to do it, or too easy that you won't feel that sense of achievement when you've done it.
Well, let's stay in that place for a second, because you're so right. And I think the generation we're in right now, it's never been so easy to compare. When you look at other people's social media highlights, you know, you only ever get the good stuff when you're looking at your friends' Facebook or Instagram posts. What are the risks of us, you know, looking over our shoulder, looking at other people's lives, for us to set our goals based on what they're doing?
So there's, in the book, I try and keep as many Alison Edgarisms in there so that it's relatable, but there's one of the bits that I did when I did the research, and I don't feel as if I'm giving away too many secrets from the book, because we're going to talk, I've got a free action book that people can download, and that's some of the exclusive content. So I don't feel I'm giving away too much. But in the research of trying to find something, I came up with Landy versus Bannister from, I think it was 1953 game. So obviously Roger Bannister, Chariots of Fire. And he was in a race with a guy called Landy, who's in theory, you know, an Australian, you know, a really good runner. He would be the favourite to win. And what was happening was Roger Bannister was lagging behind a little bit. And then Landy looked back to see where he was. And in that comparison, he lost the advantage, and then Roger Bannister just stayed in his lane and he kept going and he beat him. And I think that's a really good example that I found of somebody, by focusing on what other people are doing, it stops you from running your race. And that's, I feel that it's easy to say that, you know, and I think the things in the book are things that I have learned along the way, because especially when I started the business, not being a business person, I was looking around. And I think, again, it's good, you know, we talk in the book again about social comparison. So, you know, sometimes a little bit of social comparison, it helps you thrive on and helps you push. And, you know, if you think, oh, actually, you know, this is where I could have been, I'm a wee bit further on than that, you know, I think it's at the right level. So I think you should be aware of what's going on, but sometimes that comparison eats us up, and that then moves us into like a fixed mindset. Yeah. So if you see somebody driving around in a Ferrari and your goal is a Ferrari, then you're like, oh, it's all right for them, you know. Oh, I wonder where they get their money from. If you're anything like, you know, I'm from Glasgow, just outside Glasgow. Oh, I wonder how they got that Ferrari when they're only 16. You know, you then start to think other alternative motives, and you look for excuses as to why they're being successful, or oh, it's all right for them, they're doing this, and actually don't. Like, if you want the Ferrari, if you want the hot tub, put it in your goals. It might not take you 12 months, it might take you 12 years. Yeah. But if you've not got it on there, there's one thing for sure, you ain't getting it. And it's breaking it down again into those little, you know, SMART goals to help you get to wherever it is you want to go. And, you know, none of this is new, David. It's not new. This is one of the things I discovered when I was writing the book. Like, this is not new, but why are 92% of people not smashing their goals? And you know, what I wanted to do was create something that broke it down even further to help them and have that process, the smash it process, which I know works. But ultimately, if you don't take action, nothing works. But hopefully the way that I've written the book will encourage people to take action. Yeah, for sure.
How important is someone's why? But before you tell us about that, let's hear from our sponsor.
The investment in the video worked wonders for our business. I actually got better results than what I was expecting to.
Video is a really important marketing tool because it allows us to present ourselves in a very different way.
It went down an absolute storm.
I was really impressed with.
We had over 260,000 views and was shared and liked 8,000 times.
It definitely outgrew my expectations.
There was certainly an uptake on business, without a doubt.
That video is working, so it was worth every single penny.
It did everything I wanted it to do. It really got to be.
It's generated a lot of traffic, a lot more work for us, and ultimately generated more profit for the business.
I'm so glad I work with these guys.
So I have instructed them again.
We've gone back again this year.
Definitely the way forward.
Fans of the Talk Business With show benefit from our exclusive rate through our partnership with Animate Our Logo. Visit animateourlogo.com to unlock the discounted rate.
Alison, before the break, you were just about to tell us, how important is someone's why?
Do you know what? I think the why is imperative, because if you do set a goal, if you don't know why you're doing it, you're just going to go off track. And like in the book, I talk about, you know, without giving away too many spoilers, I was told that I was losing my eyesight. I had to have radiotherapy to save my eyesight. They told me I was going blind, and it was linked to weight loss, right? So again, without giving away too much, because we do want people to buy the book, David, you know. But the reason that I wanted to lose weight wasn't for the right reasons, and it wasn't strong enough. I think, you know, it's imperative. You know, I've gone through a weight loss journey myself. I've lost 3 stone. I went from couch to 5K, couch to 10K, couch to half marathon, all sort of during lockdown, and writing a book, and bringing up my kids, and looking after the dog, you know, and running a team. But it was for health reasons, not for aesthetic reasons, that I wanted to do that. And even now, you know, by my own admittance, like this lockdown has been really tricky to stay on focus. And when I got to half marathon, it's like, I want to do marathon. Where do I go from here? And that's where I took up walking. So I've given up running, doing walking, and I do boot camp, which is obviously off at the moment, but boot camp's coming back in another 2 weeks. So I feel like it's okay. I've forgiven myself for not doing a lot of sweaty physical exercise. Yeah. And because I know that when boot camp comes back, I'll jump back on it. And I think that's another thing, forgiving yourself and not giving up your why, but just saying, like, I'm going to have a month off here. I'm going to have 6 weeks off here because boot camp's closed. I'm going to walk instead. And then when boot camp comes back, I'm going to do that, and I'm back on. So I think that's okay. And it comes back to that time frame of the SMART objective, because, you know, for example, one of my SMART goals was going on holiday to Croatia in May 2020. Had it on my vision board. Well, that didn't happen, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to go to Croatia. I just pushed back the time frame.
Yeah.
So the why you want to do it is, I've never been to Croatia. I've seen loads of people talking about it. It looks fantastic. My kind of weather, really nice hotels. I'll need a break. So, you know, why do I work hard is to pay for that. So the why, I think, is really important, and if it isn't strong enough, then you really will struggle to hit your goals.
That's really good. I mean, so many people listening, and hopefully people that go on to read and buy your book as well, will have had the experience where they've had Christmas, they set their New Year's resolutions, and by January the 3rd, they're all out the window.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Talk to us about the why that is so common, and also something great that you just said in your last answer as well, about how to almost reset that. You know, if you've had an experience of not meeting your goal before, how you can kind of make sure that you can almost use it as rocket fuel to make sure that you hit your goal next time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that time frame. So you think, right, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and break it down. Like, even if it's like, do you know what, I'm going to walk 10k steps every single day. I mean, that's not a huge, or even 5k steps, or even for some people, I'm going to walk 5 steps. I'm going to get out of my bed and walk 5 steps. It comes back to the 2 jumpers for the goalposts, or the Premier League at Wembley, the proper goalposts. Yeah. And it's so relevant to you, but I think it's about resetting all the time. And, you know, maybe you have set too big a goal. Well, don't give yourself a hard time and give up. Just alter it back down again. And the reason was, it wasn't specific, it wasn't measurable, it wasn't achievable. And I know that SMART is not mine, but it is the focus point on where people go wrong. And I think it's interesting, because to me, I honestly feel like I've discovered the meaning of life in this book. And it's just that balance. And I think there's books on mindset, there's books on SMART, there's books on this, but I felt that in the market, from the research I had done, there was nothing that brought together all of those things. And one of the things we talk about in the book is the me thing. So the art of getting what you want, it's the me thing or the we thing. So your goal might be to get a job. Well, you could have the best mindset in the world, but if you're failing an interview because you haven't got the right skills, then you're not going to get that job. And that's not, it's obviously about perseverance and resilience, but you need to learn those skills with other people, because if another person's involved in you getting what you want, and that's where, again, the sales side of things comes in, that's where the influence comes. And again, there's books on influence, but not on the me thing. So this is where I think by combining the me thing and the we thing is a great resource for people to actually smash it and get what they want.
Yeah. What's the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset?
So again, it's really interesting, because if you'd have asked me that maybe 3 years ago, I wouldn't really have been able to tell you the difference. And again, it's learning stuff. Like I've got a Facebook group, and about 3 years ago, somebody was saying something like about something quite negative. And the response was, oh, don't worry about them. They've got a fixed mindset. I thought, oh, I wonder what that is, a fixed mindset. So I did a wee Google, and I came up with the studies by Professor Carol Dweck. Now, Carol Dweck does all the stuff she's a professor at Stanford, so she looks at children and resilience in children, and how that, like, oh, I can't spell, I'm rubbish at this, I can't do that, is actually telling ourselves negative thoughts and negative feelings. And actually working with children to have a growth mindset, that they might think, well, I tried to spell that word, I didn't do it very particularly well, but actually what I can do next time is I can work out how to remember how to spell. And I use that as a dyslexic because I'm really bad at spelling as part of my neurodiversity. But how do you not look at that as a negative? So when you make a mistake or things don't go your way, how do you look at that as a positive? And I think that's the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. Like, it's not that I don't make any mistakes. It's not that I don't, get things wrong. But every time I do, I go, yes, right, what can we learn from that? And even in my delivery, even with my clients, like, it doesn't go well all the time. Touch wood, we very rarely get negative feedback. But when we do, it's like, bring it on, right? Tell me, you know, give me that on the chin, because how can I get better? But so many people, there's a lot of blame culture, isn't there? Oh, that wasn't my fault. That was the customer's fault. Oh, they didn't give me the right address. They didn't do that. Whatever it is, you know, there's a lot of, and that feeds right into the fixed mindset. And, you know, sometimes in organizations, this is what I see sort of externally, is that, you know, one fixed mindset is like a rotten apple in a barrel. It just spreads, or like fruit flies around bananas. Woo! They didn't take long for that to go off. Yeah. But really working on that as really getting people to integrate and see around change and positivity. I think we need that coming through the end of the pandemic. We're going to need, you know, so much more positivity. And I think that's what I bring, and the book brings, and a growth mindset brings.
Yeah. You've mentioned before that you're dyslexic, which is so common in successful entrepreneurs, isn't it? How does this impact your day-to-day life, and what have you put in place to help?
So I've just literally done an interview for a girl that was doing a university white paper on this. So I'm really fascinated to see the results. But yeah, there's a lot of famous dyslexic entrepreneurs. I think for me, I didn't know I was dyslexic. So I went through my life until I was in my 30s, which is obviously only a few years ago, David, not knowing that there was this thing. I didn't know it was a thing. And it was only, I was with a client, and they had an optician, and they were talking about yellow lenses, and I'm going, well, oh my God, is that a fashion trend? Why would anybody want a yellow lens? No, for dyslexia. Oh, what's dyslexia? Again, I'm quite curious, you know. Yeah. Oh, that's when the words get jumbled up, and you can't, I'm like, ask me. And they went, oh, come on, we'll do your wee test. And I was obviously diagnosed dyslexic in my 30s, but I didn't even know it was a thing. But what I have always, again, you know, coming back to where we started with this, you know, how did my upbringing impact things? That I was always taught to just do your A game, bring your A game every day, and all you can do is your best, and stay positive and try and find ways. So I was always brought up to try and find coping strategies for things that I wasn't great at. So if you look at like superpowers and vulnerabilities, I've always looked at dyslexia, or not knowing what it is, but I was always looking at my people skills as a massive asset. So I love people, touch wood, most people love me. And that's always been a strength. When it came to the written word and anything to do with anything like that, I mean, it took me years to find the coping strategies, because when you're in a job, like, so, you know, I only set my business up when I was 46. So, you know, I've not had the business that long, maybe, you know, 7 years. When you're in a job, you just have to find workarounds, don't you? And I think technology's changed. So things like Grammarly, we've got, you'll like this one, David. So I've got a Mac, right? And I highlight all the text on the Mac. And I've got one of the audio playbacks, because dyslexics miss the there's the, you know, the little words, we don't recognize it in our patterns. And I call it Fiona. She's called Fiona, and she reads it back in Scottish, right? So it's hilarious. So say I'm putting out, I used to get a lot of stick on LinkedIn, like people saying, well, why would we work with you? You can't even put a sentence together, or, you know, like some vile comments. And I think it's helped me now having Fiona, because before I'll post it, then Fiona will check it. Also, you know, I mentioned earlier that, you know, I had a team, I've got a team of people that I knew that I needed that, and where a lot of people would have been scared to take it on for the wage costs and all the rest of it, I knew that I couldn't go anywhere. You know, I couldn't hit my goals without other people. And I think that's been an interesting, maybe that does make me entrepreneurial, but I knew I couldn't do it without them. And I've got massive goals. Like, I'm not anywhere near where I want to go. So I know that I can't do it on my own. And I think that's where that's always been in my strengths, whereas actually a lot of people might be more in the control space and they don't trust other people. I've always trusted other people, because I've always growth mindset. You know, an example, right? Our database. So the number of times that we have sent out, and not the same staff member, but we sent out something through MailChimp or through Active or whatever, and it's not been 100% right, and they worry, like the team are like, oh, Alison, I sent it out and you know, it didn't have the right, I forgot to add a link, or the link didn't work, or the spelling didn't work. And I'm like, that's okay. Like, you know, nobody ever died because they get an email and the link didn't work. So, you know, what have we learned from that? We've learned that we check it before we send it out. Yes, we have. Yeah. You know, I literally, and I think that's where I don't mind people making mistakes, because in fact I would rather they make a mistake and learn from it, because that displays a growth mindset, and that's what I'm all about, having a growth mindset and a positivity around everything we do.
Yeah. Why do you think that so many successful people have dyslexia? Is there a part of how you process things that is a huge advantage to you in other ways? Because obviously have you ever spent any time thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's problem solving, because we've had to problem solve and find workarounds for all of our life. Then I think that's been something that's incredible. And you know, both my children are dyslexic. So one's 20, the other one's 18, and they've both gone through the university. They're both at uni, and they've gone through the testing program there. And one of them, the youngest one, he is in the 90th percentile for problem solving. I mean, that's right off the scale as a problem solver. And he's in the 14th percentile for the written word, the written and communication word. I mean, that is a massive disparity, isn't it? From 14 in one area to 90. And I think that would be a trend that you would probably see, that if you take away having to read and write into any of the problem solving for dyslexics, that they would be right up there. And my son is studying product design and engineering, so hopefully he's the next, I forgot his name, Dyson, you know, that kind of thing. So it's that engineering space, and with the mathematics, so he's very, very, very mathematical. So I do believe, I'd love to see the research on it. I'm sure there's a link, but I haven't seen the statistics. But definitely, because we've always had to do it. We've always had to find a workaround.
Yeah. Having worked with lots of talented people, what are the most common traits that you recognise within successful people, Alison?
Oh, I think positivity. You know, I don't see anybody that has been successful that doesn't have a positive spin on everything. And even then, even if I'm having a bad day or a bad conversation, I'll say, this, but on a positive note. And literally everything I'll say, but on a positive note. So I might have that negative, but I can always turn it back round. Resilience, definitely. And again, I believe that comes back to that growth mindset and positivity. In fact, I think if you've got a growth mindset, that anything is achievable, literally. Yeah. But fed into the why, David. So coming back to that question. So for example, do you think that you could fly a plane? You know, and I do this sometimes, like, you know, what do you want? Tell me about your goals. Oh, I want to be able to fly a plane. Oh, that's brilliant. Why do you want to be able to fly a plane? I don't really know. I just think it'd be quite nice to jump on a plane and go to France for the day. Well, I'm sorry, when you've spent 100 grand on your lessons and, you know, you can't, it's a wee bit cloudy out there. That's not going to make you want to be able to do it. So it's that combination. And again, you know, what makes those people definitely growth mindset, really strong why, positive outlook is, I would say, 3 of the main things. And they all set goals and they're all smart. It's like, you know, I've written a whole book on this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I know you're really passionate about self-development. What resources have been the biggest impact on helping you develop your skills over the years?
Do you know what? Like you say, I'm passionate about self-development, but up until I wrote a book on it, I wasn't. That sounds really odd, because I think that again, like, I've never read a personal development book. I've never read a business book. So my resource isn't the traditional, and I think this is what helps give me a bit of an edge, David, because a lot of people regurgitate the stuff word for word, and because as a dyslexic I can't remember anything word for word. I can hardly remember my words, let alone anybody else's, that I can't do that. So I have to put a spin on things that I understand, because a lot of the stuff is so highbrow and high level, I haven't got a flipping clue what it means. So, for example, again, I'll give you another wee sneak peek about the book, but like Maslow's hierarchy. So for me, I had heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but I didn't know what it was, right? So our best friends for resource, our 2 best friends are the YouTube and the Google. So if I want to find out anything, I won't buy a book on it or read a book in it. I'll find the components. And like, for example, I looked at the triangle and I'm like, oh, right, okay, I get that. You know, you have to breathe, you need the water, right? You need a house, and you need to be part of like a pack, and then you want to be the top of the pack, and then you want to get, and I got all that, but I thought, how can I relate this back? And what I translated that into was the Tom Hanks movie Castaway. So if you look at Tom Hanks' character in Castaway, Chuck Nolan, before he was in the plane crash, he was at the top of the triangle, wasn't he? He was working for, you know, the delivery company. He had all going. He had his girlfriend Kelly. He was like, he was right at the top. He was giving back. He was like the Bill Gates of movie characters. And then the plane crashed. And within, I don't know, in the movie time, 10 minutes, he was right back to the bottom of Maslow's. And you could watch him as he climbed through that movie, getting back into Maslow's, and how he, you know, and I think, again, as a non-academic, that made me understand it. I translated it into something. And I think, to be fair, the pandemic has created a lot of Chuck Nolans through this process over the last year. And that's another thing that I hope, like, when people read the book, they can not just see Maslow's and go, yeah, well, that's that triangle thing. They can go, all right, I understand this now, and this is how I can change my direction and where I am. So yeah, that's so that my resources are like my two favorites, the YouTube and the Google.
Yeah, brilliant. Alison, you are so awesome. I've really enjoyed speaking to you for the last 45 minutes. But before you go, do you have any closing thoughts? And also make sure that you tell people how they can follow your journey.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say that I have got, if they go into www.alisonedgar.com, that's the website, and if they go /smash it, so alisonedgar.com /smash it, they can get the action book, which has got things they can start working on straight away. And also there's some exclusive content in there that's never been released. And I'm really active on all social media. So I use my own LinkedIn, Alison Edgar, Twitter, and Instagram is @the Alison Edgar. And again, I check it every day. I'm on it. I reply to messages. Touch wood, I've got a great load of people that love what I say, love what I do, and I converse with them regularly and hopefully inspire them to smash it and get what they want.
And you're also very active on Clubhouse as well, right?
I'm incredibly active. I try not to be too active. So I do the morning show with Ashley in the morning from 6 till 9. I finish at 9 because obviously I've got the team coming in. And then I've started to do my own Clubhouse room on a Saturday between 10 and 12. And I'm having people just popping in and out. And the title is Smash It, the art of getting what you want. And it kind of wheedles around in different conversational ways, but definitely all around helping people to smash it.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to pull all of those links together and make sure that they're in the description below this video. Alison, thanks again for your time. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, David.
Thank you.